Hi, my name is Angela Davis and I'm the 4M Quilter. Welcome. If you've never been to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular viewer, thank you. Thank you for stopping by again. Starry Path. This is a lovely pattern to work up. I'm going to show you how to do it. And I also mentioned this one in my newsletter. If you had an opportunity to download it, I will also leave a link so that you can download the newsletter for this month. But this is one of the blocks that I wanted to show you for the month of March. And I drafted all the pieces to do the 18-inch block, which is what you see here. Now this finishes at 31 by 31, okay, which is excellent for wall hanging and or a small baby quilt.
Here's the pattern that you see from the book.
What if I enlarge that center block to 18 inches and then put a border around it? And then what if I used these colors? Let me show you. I'll turn the camera down so you can see. So what if I made it almost like a wall hanging, or it could be a really bright baby quilt. Think about that. That would be nice. So I have the polka dots here, the green and the pink. And so this is what I'm thinking. Now, when I drew it out, I was thinking about adding an orange. But then I decided, no, I'm going to keep the pink, only because the orange I had on hand was a little dark for what I wanted. And then I found the pink, and I went, oh, that pink will work. So my drawing shows it in the orange here. But in reality, I'm doing the green in the long star points, the pink in the short star points. The background is going to be the polka dot. And then each part of the border is going to be pink and green, alternating. And then this outside border in orange, I'm not going to do in orange, I'm going to do in that polka dot pattern. This original block finishes at 12 inches. But I want mine to finish at 18. So what I did was I took a couple of large pieces of paper and I drew an 18-inch block. Then I said to myself, these points are at the halfway mark. So then I marked each point for these short points at the halfway mark. Then I drew a line from the halfway mark to the opposite corner. Okay. From the halfway mark to the opposite corner, from the halfway mark to the opposite corner, halfway mark to the opposite corner. Okay. Then what I did was, since I knew that here to here was the halfway mark, I knew from here to here is the center. So I drew a diagonal line here and a diagonal line here, and that gave me my long star points here. Once I established my long star points, all I had to do, because I had this line here, all I had to do was connect this point to this intersection on each of these. And that's how I was able to create my pattern. So these are my original pattern pieces in here. And I transferred them onto cardboard. We're looking, the pattern is right here. 1/4 of the star. Is right here, like that. There it is. Okay. There it is. just like that. Goes like this, okay? That's 1/4 of my block. I'm gonna make 4 of these to create my center square. So let's get started. Now, the thing about cutting out this fabric, and I could have cut out rectangles, and then I could have cut the rectangles on the diagonal. But what I realized was, if I did that, I have to work it out in my mind. If I did that, all the fabric would have to face up, because if I put right sides together, I'm going to get opposing images. And in this particular pattern, because of those rectangle, those triangles being the shapes that they are, they're angled at a certain position. So I have to keep the fabric I have to keep the fabric up and not facing down on the table. I hope I'm making sense the way I'm explaining this. I have my pink, I have my lines drawn out, and now I'm going to draw parts 3 and parts 4. Now, I need 4 of number 3 and 4 of number 4. Okay, so I cut more fabric and I drew my pattern onto the polka dot, and I need 4 pieces of number 3. Oh, where's the book? Ha, here's the book. Okay. When in doubt, look at the book. Seriously. And the dog is being so naughty. She really is. She's just being naughty. She hears stuff going on outside, so of course she wants to bark about it. Today has been absolutely gorgeous. Well, I take that back. Earlier today, this morning, my daughters and I actually went to Joann Fabrics, and we got fabric for Catherine's prom. Okay, and so that they can get started on that. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so the reason why I had to pin it the way I did, I pinned 2 pieces together. Both pieces, the top is facing toward the ceiling, okay? So that when I lay the template down, it's laying flat. And the reason why is these triangles are at an angle. So I have to keep that angle true. So I hope the way I explain that to you makes sense about keeping the fabric right sides facing toward the ceiling. Because when I lay these triangles down, they have to face a certain direction. And if I put the fabric right sides facing, I'm going to have one in this direction and one in this direction, and that won't work. Does that make sense? I hope so. But right now, I'm cutting. My daughters and I went to Joann Fabrics, and we did buy just a little bit of fabric, not a lot. The steep sales have not started yet. Right now, everything was basically 20 or 30% off. Some of it was 40% off, which is pretty standard, you know, if you had a coupon. So Okay, so see how these are both in the same direction, like this. Okay, because I position the pattern and the fabric to face toward the ceiling. If I had done these right sides together like this, they'd be the opposite. They wouldn't be going in the right direction. I think I'm explaining that well. But yeah, so we went to Dread Fabrics and talked to some of the employees that I've known over the course of the years, because several years ago I used to work at Joann's, and so I know a couple of the women. A lot of the women that I work with no longer have no longer worked there, but a couple of the women that I worked with, I talked with, and it's hard. Some of these women have worked there 30 years. Some are going to go into retirement, and some have to find work again, and it's going to be hard for them. When you've only known one company and one way of doing things, it's going to be rough, So I really do feel for them. I really do. But unfortunately, and I'm not being flippant by no means. By no means am I being flippant. But the only thing you can count on in life is change. Whether it's for the good or the bad. And we'll go back before the final doors close, and we'll buy fabric. But we're going to wait until everything gets slashed, which is probably not going to be until the last, I'd say 3 weeks that they're going to be open, because when the store in Hermitage closed, which is Hermitage, PA, which is Western PA, which is like 40 minutes from us, 45 minutes. We went there. It was about 2 or 3 weeks before they closed. And at that point, they had fabric where all the fabric was by bolt. So you bought whatever was on the bolt, but you got, I think the discount was like 70% off. So you could buy a whole bolt at 70% off whatever was left on the bolt. And that's when we went. The batting was gone. The only thing left in the batting was the roll of polyester batting. And I think I ended up buying 10 yards because it was only $2.50. It was only $2.50 a yard. And even though it was polyester, I can use those for wall hangings or placemats or crafting. Baby quilts. I use them for baby quilts. So I did buy it. So we will definitely go back in the next couple of weeks to keep an eye on things, because I imagine, it's mid-March. I imagine they're only going to be open probably another few weeks. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I don't know. The employees don't even know. But that's what I'm thinking. And that's when we'll go back, is when we can buy a bolt of fabric at 70 or 80% off. We did buy about 6 spools of thread, because you can always use thread. My daughter bought some paint, got some fabric for Catherine for the prom, because she's going to be making her skirt. She's also going to be making a blouse, a flowy blouse, but we're going to wait to buy that fabric. Yeah. It started out as a family-owned store, and it grew. It grew. And it continued to be a family-owned store up until right before I left. And I left Joann Fabrics. I think I left Joann Fabrics in 2018. And I don't know the time, the exact time, but I think that's when, right before then, I think is when it transitioned from being a family-owned store to being, you know, incorporated or whatever. And that's when everything changed. When a CEO came in and it became a corporation, I guess. I mean, I don't follow that kind of stuff. But when it went from being a family-owned business to like a corporation, when I worked there, it was at a different location, and the footage, the physical store itself was bigger than the store it's in now. It was huge. And in order to cover and man the store, let's say it was just a regular busy weekend, we would have at least 3 people at the cutting counter. You'd have at least 3 people at the registers. You'd have at least 2 or 3 people on the floor. Then you had your night team come in, which was at least 3 people, who were doing all the floor setups, all the sales setups throughout the night, accepting shipments at night. Then in the morning, it would start all over again. You had a team working the store, okay? And when you had multiple people working a cutting counter, so let's say it was a busy weekend, like Memorial Day or Easter. Easter's coming up. That's a big one, okay? The weeks leading up to Easter, the weekends would get so busy, we'd have 4 or 5 people at the cutting counter. You'd have four people at the register and at least 2, 3 people on the floor. So that if somebody came up and they said, hey, I'm thinking about buying this pattern, but it says here, shoulder pads, long sleeves. Do I need shoulder pads? Can I take out the shoulder pads? If I do that, do I have to take a little tuck at the sleeve? You know what we would do? We take the pattern out and we go, okay, let's look at the pattern. Because we had time to provide that kind of service to our customer, to the customer. If a customer came up and said, you know, I'm thinking about this quilt, and I'm thinking about this color and this pink. Is this going to clash? Do you think it's too busy? What's your opinion? Have you ever made a quilt? You know, these are the kind of questions we would get asked. And we were able to assist them because there was people on the floor to assist them, okay? Because the family was running the business. And the family ran it the way retail should be run. When you take the human element out of a situation and suddenly you walk in the store and there's 4 people in the entire store to do the cutting counter, service your customers, wait on them at the desk, and I'll wait. In the meantime, shipments coming. 4 people in an entire store. They went from having a team of 15 to 4. And then the corporation wonders why it went bankrupt. How do you service the customer if there's nobody there to service them? Why would I go there if there's nobody there to say, hey, can you help me with this pattern? You know, hey, this color, not quite sure. What do you think of that? You know, I'm making a quilt for, my niece is having a baby. Oh, hey, wait, we're working on a prom dress. We're thinking about this fabric and that fabric. Have you ever worked with this fabric before? Okay. When the corporation took over, they said, okay, we want you to run the store. We want you to give the same amount of customer service you did before, but we're not going to give you the staffing or the hours to do it. But we still want you to make sales. Who's running the show? Where do they get these people up at the corporate office? Have you ever worked in retail? You can't service a customer if there's nobody in the store to service them. They did it to themselves. The corporation did it to themselves. Now, I'm not sure all corporations are like that, okay? So, but I got to see a couple of the women I worked with. And I do wish them a lot of luck, in their futures, because they're going to have it hard, They really are. They're going to have a lot of adjustments to adjust to in their lives. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, now. Okay, here are my pieces. So let's take the pins out and see if I cut everything correctly while I'm over here jibber-jabbering with you. I think what I'm going to do is do pink on top of background. Now when I pick this up, I'm going to meet these two angles together and stitch. Let me adjust my thread. Now, I'm going to do some finger pressing, okay? Okay. Now I'm going to do this, top of this. Now, you're going to notice these angles, my points are sticking out, okay? That's going to happen because of the angle. So I have to make an adjustment there. Okay. Now, go like this. That looks good. Looks good. And I'm pressing toward the pink. Okay. Now, I'm going to flip this to here. going to press it. Pink on top of background. And this angle right here is a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to line up this point, okay? Stitching away, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Finger press toward the pink. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and go like, that doesn't look right. No, that's right. Go like this. Now, this isn't going to line up because of my angles, okay? So this point right here has to extend just a little bit, okay? To make up for the fact that the raw edge on the angle is elongated. Okay, now I'm gonna press. I will press toward the beige this time. And then we're gonna go like this. And this is going on top, okay? I know it's dark in here. It's the evening. I'm gently pressing. Is that better? I'm gently pressing. And I'm lifting. Just gently. Okay, I'm going to turn it over. I'm lifting. One more to go. There's one, two, three, four. I'm gonna hold my threads like I always do. Okay, now, right here, where my two seam lines intersect, there's an X there. I want this seam that I'm sewing right there. So my needle is right on that X where those two seams meet. Now all I have to do is match up these seams. Right here. Right there. Just going nice and slow. I've got some threads here, don't I? Trim some of those threads out. Take the pin out, continue stitching. Trim some of these threads. Take the pin out. Gonna pin this one too. There. Just taking my time. Gonna hold this down with the needle. There we go. Just continuing on down the seam, taking my time. All the way to the end. Now my ends aren't always going to meet because of those long angles, because of the different angles. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, I'm going to press this open. I'm sorry about my lighting. This side wants to sometimes we can, there we go. I'm gonna open that up, okay? Open that up. This one wants to press. No. This one wants to press to that side. Yeah, we're good. There we go. Give it a little spritz. I know, I need better lighting. I know. Okay, now, I should do it this way. I'm not sure. See if I get a nice square corner. When you're dealing with these angles, sometimes it's tough to get a nice square corner. Okay. It can be a little tough because you're dealing with these angles, you know? Okay. Okay. I decided to do a 1-inch border in the green, so I cut those strips at 1.5. And then I did a 3-inch border on the outside, so I cut those at 3.5. I have enough pink. I have enough of the pink where I could bring the pink to the outside and do a narrow border of 1 inch and then do a pink binding. I'm not sure yet. I think I'm leaning toward doing a pink border. I think that's what I'm leaning toward. So let me start cutting. Well, what did you think of Starry Path? You like it? Give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. If you're not subscribed, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any more of my future videos. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'm Angela Davis. I'm the 4M Quilter. And remember, why sleep when you can sew?